Welcome back to the Reader Approach channel. Today we're going to be talking about compensators. Do you need them? Are they useful? So let's jump into it. So first things first, when it comes to compensators, specifically we're going to be talking about handguns today. I am a compensator novice. I might even be a noob, probably a noob. However, I am extremely new to these types of things and I wanted to share my first thoughts and experiences with you because I want you to understand the process that I went through. It wasn't a pleasant one. The very beginning of the topic is like, do you need a compensator for your handgun? Honestly, probably not. With good grip and fundamentals, you can handle that no problem. It's only 9mm, so it's not like it's a high recoiling round. Something that I noticed when I installed is that I absolutely noticed the difference. Within my first few shots, I noticed a pretty big difference as far as the recoil was concerned. Oh. So that was pretty cool. I didn't really think too much of it. Later on, I went and had a range session and I put about 400 or 500 rounds through my gun with the compensator for the first time. And something that I really appreciated, it was a lot easier to track my dot within my RMR. RMRs are notorious for having a bit of a small window, especially when you compare that to a lot of the newer offerings, such as the Loophole Delta Point Pro, the Trijicon SRO, and optics like that. There's a much larger window. And so as you're managing your recoil, every now and again, you can lose your dot as it jumps out of it. So something that I really appreciated was the fact of I never really lost my dot once I installed the compensator on there. I get it. If I had better grip and, controlled the gun a little bit more, I could do it. But I am just a normal shooter. My battery died. I am no Jerry Mitchell when it comes to shooting. And so when I'm firing really rapid fire and sometimes that gun is a little bit getting away from me, it is a lot easier to track my dot. And so there's plenty of times when I've lost that and it takes just a fraction of a second longer to get back on target and then get that dot back into my window. However, with the compensator, I noticed immediately that my dot was never really getting away from me. And so that made it a lot easier to really dig in. We're gonna just grip that and let it rip. And then put a lot of consistent shots right on target. And that was the immediate performance boost that I really appreciated when it came to the compensator. Now, 9mm, as I said, is not a high recoiling round. However, for a 40 or a 45, maybe a 10mm if you're an absolute Chad, I can see the compensator being a little bit more of a necessity to make that a little bit more controllable. That way your gun isn't constantly getting away from you if you have one of those guns, and I think a compensator has a little bit more bang for the buck. So the immediate question is, does it make you a lazy shooter? That was something that was always in my mind as I thought about installing a compensator. This VP9 came with a threaded barrel. It's like, well, it'd be cool to have a compensator on it. However, is that going to result in the degradation of my skills just because it's coming a little bit easier? While there's absolutely an argument for that, I think so long as you are practicing your fundamentals, getting a good confident grip, and then really driving that home, and you're not holding your gun like a dainty little bitch, I think you're gonna be just fine. But that is absolutely something to keep in mind if you're installing a compensator or you're thinking about installing a compensator. You need to make sure that you don't become a lazy shooter because you're using the compensator as a crutch, and then you grab somebody's stock weapon and that thing is just recoiling like a 357 in your hand and it's only a 9mm. You don't want to be that guy. So make sure to practice your fundamentals. What are some issues you might have if you put a compensator onto your weapon? So the first thing is, especially this one, it's kind of large, it's kind of big. So if you're planning on concealing this, then your gun is gonna have a little bit more weight to it and it's gonna be a little bit longer. As you can see here, I've got this Surefire X300 Turbo. This turbo on here, it doesn't bring it out any further than the flashlight itself. It's not like I'm putting that into my holster and I'm feeling a lot of extra length. If you have a much more compact flashlight, maybe one that ends in your frame, and then you put a big chunky compensator on that, then you're absolutely gonna feel that, especially if you're carrying an appendix and it's right there, hanging out with your boys and your jumblies. If you're a woman, you're gonna be fine. If you got a small dick and you got extra space for it, like me, you're also gonna be fine. Next is gonna be holster compatibility. Not every holster is gonna be made to accommodate that. What I had to do was take a Dremel to my 2 holsters, my outside the waistband holster and my inside the waistband holster, and I took a Dremel and I just went ahead and sawed off the little end because it was beveled inwards towards the gun to have a nice sure fit. I don't think that affected the retention in any way. We'll see when I drop my gun in a bathroom or something and then I end up on live leak. But that isn't something that I really noticed. And if you have a can-do attitude and a little bit of ingenuity, you can do it too. Next is just gonna be the cost that comes with it. While that isn't really an issue, it is something to consider. You're gonna have to have a threaded barrel. If your gun doesn't have a threaded barrel already, then that's gonna be an extra cost. It's gonna be anywhere from $150 to $250, depending on what you want. It might be a little bit more pricey if you get one of those, you know, shiny gold tin-plated ones. I don't use those, I don't get those. I love gold! But if that's your shtick, that's fine. Then you're gonna pay for the compensator itself. The compensator itself is gonna be roughly, I don't know, $100, $150 depending on what you're getting. My 2, I have a Herrington Arms and a Fisher machining one, I think, Fisher machine. Anyway, both of those were right around the $100, $120 mark. Continuing the issues that I faced, both of them installed in a completely different way. This first one that I have installed in my VP9, this was through the Fisher something. It utilized shims in order to get the timing right, and then you torqued it on. I'm a fucking idiot, and I didn't have a bench vise the first time, so I tried to do it with only a screwdriver and some pliers and a can-do attitude. That eventually turned into a horrible attitude, and I could not get it, and I ended up fucking up the finish pretty good, so that's cool, that's fine. It's a gun, no big deal. However, that is something that I had to do. And then no matter what, I couldn't get it timed right. So there was a little bit of a gap and it kind of bothers me. It's made in such a way that it looks like it's not meant to have the gap, but I had to utilize those shims to get the timing right. And it seemed like the only way to have that was to have like a full spin on it, a full turn. And so now it's got a little bit of a gap on there and that kind of just bothers me. It just does, I don't know. Next was this Herrington Arms ones that I installed in the Flux Raider. The Flux Raider absolutely did not need one. However, I didn't like that the slide ended about an inch before the end of the chassis, and that really bothered me. And there is just something in the back of my head that says, Reaver, you're gonna take your thumb and you're gonna put it in front of the barrel and you're gonna blow your thumb off. You're gonna lose the one thing that separates you from the beasts, your fucking thumb. When I first fired the Flux Raider, it definitely felt a little bit snappier than I expected. Not bad. Definitely feels snappy. And definitely the compensator tamed it down a little bit as well. It's not nearly snappy. Now it's still a 9mm, so it's not like it's kicking hard anyway, but I did feel a noticeable difference, which I appreciated. But like I said, I mainly did it just because I wanted to extend past the frame because I was worried about losing my very, very special appendage. This one installs a little bit differently. You time it on and then you get it to the right position, and then you've got 2 hex keys on the left and right that you tighten down. My problem with that is no matter what, it always comes loose. I've taken this out maybe 5 or 6 times on separate range trips, and it comes loose after about maybe 100 to 150 rounds. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. I have been applying Loctite pretty liberally, but it still comes loose every single time. I even broke one of my Allen wrenches torquing it down, and it still came loose. So maybe I need to use some red Loctite, but I've had some bad experiences with that, and I'm not exactly keen to do it again. With my other one, for my VP9, put about 500 rounds through it at this point in time, and it has not come loose at all. So it was much more of a bitch to install, but it is holding steady on the gun. I forgot to talk about this. One of the big issues that I was worried about with my compensator is its ability to cycle regular ammunition or just range ammunition. I didn't want something that couldn't cycle that. I didn't want to change out springs or guide rods or anything like that because I want to be able to put a compensator on that. Thankfully, I have not had an issue with either the VP9's compensator or the Flux Raider's compensator, so that was pretty nice. However, I did have an issue with one ammo on the VP9. It was a really old remanufactured ammo, and it was just an old handful that I had in a box somewhere, and it had an issue. every single time. Time will tell. I'll try out more ammunition and see if it has that same problem. However, with self-defense loads that are like a plus P or a plus P plus, Hornady critical defense, Spear gold dots, G9 ammo, anything like that, is gonna have no problem cycling that because it's a higher pressure round and it's not gonna be some underloaded piece of shit that you bought from some guy on the side of the road. There's like a channel of clouds right here and there's sun going right into my fucking eyeballs, and I can just feel myself dropping from 40 to 41 to 42 to 4320 vision, and I'm doing that for you. I can't even see what's in front of me because it seems like there's a fucking flashbang in my face. Something else to remember when you install a compensator, especially for mine, which are kind of semi-permanent, or they're meant to be, cleaning is going to be a little bit harder because you can't pull the barrel off because there's a fucking compensator in the way. I didn't realize that until I was cleaning it for the first time. Like, hold up, wait a second, this is stuck in there. You can still clean it just fine, but it's not quite as easy. You kind of have to get your little digits and wrap it around there. That way you don't have a bunch of carbon building up to the left and right of the barrel. But that really isn't that much of a problem, but it is something to consider if you're a noob to compensators like me. So do you need a compensator for your pistol? Probably not, but I've really appreciated it. And does that mean that it's gonna stay on my gun forever? No, not really. I still wanna give it some time. In a year or so, I may be like, compensators suck. Or maybe I become a really shitty shooter because I've become so lax with my grip because I'm used to that compensator doing the work for me. I don't know. These are only my first thoughts, and if you're a noob like me, then you might have the same questions that I did. Now, the biggest thing for me is I want to be able to utilize every single advantage possible on my concealed carry firearm. And so when I've noticed that performance change, I was a pretty big fan of it because I feel like I was kind of burning the range down. I was feeling like John Wick, right? When I was shooting it, because the dot was just a lot easier and it wasn't getting away from me. So I like to be able to utilize every advantage that I can, and I see a compensator as being a bit of an advantage. Now, not every single one is going to be the same. Some of them are a little bit smaller and more compact. I really like those. The Ram jets that are coming out for, I believe the Glocks these days, are a lot more low profile and they're not so chunky like this. So if you're looking a little bit more for a performance gain, but you don't want such a big thing on the end of your pistol, then that's definitely something to look into. If it's not a concealed carry weapon, then yeah, sure, change your guns and the internals, whatever you want. However, I really like to keep the internals of my concealed carry guns as stock as possible because I don't want to mess with the original formula.
The secret formula!
That was one of the reasons why I was a bit hesitant to put a compensator on it. Like I said, it may not live on there forever, but I'm absolutely giving it a go. We'll probably have an update video in a year or so to see if that's something that I've liked keeping onto my gun. But so far, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So if you've ever compensated for something in your life, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I see you over there. I know you've done it. Maybe you've done it twice. Now you have to subscribe and like the video, okay? Or I'm gonna tell your mother. I'm gonna tell your mother that you're a dirty, rotten liar. I'll do it. I'll do it. Don't make me find you. You know, I actually forgot about comment of the week. I came back here so I could film this for you. This week's comment of the week is brought to you by Bryson, and his comment is I thought you were cool, but is that a Subaru I see you driving? No, that's a Ford F-150. I drive a man's truck. That's not a Subaru. It's not a Subaru. It certainly isn't a Subaru that I've tried to trick out and make it a little bit more of a man's vehicle. That certainly isn't what it is. That's a Ford F-150. That's a Ford F-150. It's a Ford F-150. I drive a man's car. So here at the Reaver Approach channel, we like to end things with a bang. So why not end it with a flashbang? Should I throw this?